Welcome to episode 8 of the Shutdown Stories. I'm here with Connor Cape, voice of the Colorado Rapids in the MLS. Connor, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me, buddy. We finally got this Wi-Fi situation figured out. So
Yeah,
I think, fingers crossed, I'm ready to go.
yeah, a couple technical difficulties leading up to it, but we're good now. So to give some background, Connor and I actually met when I was still in college. I was interning for Mile High Sports Magazine, and Connor you were a photographer for them at that point, right?
No, I did some writing and I
Okay.
did a show on the weeknights.
Okay,
We,
so I'm misremembering that completely then. Welcome to it.
I mean, I'd love to do photography for them. That'd be great. So maybe we can speak that into existence.
Hey, let's do it. I'm here for it. So, like I mentioned, Connor, you're the voice of the Colorado Rapids. You guys got one or two games in before the shutdown happened. What was that day like where the news came down like, hey, the MLS is going on this break because of COVID-19? There won't be games for the foreseeable future.
So yeah, we got two games in, and what really sucked about it is we won the first two games.
Hmm.
So we started 2-0-0, maximum points. We had a road victory in there against DC. Like everybody was flying high, optimism through the roof. Everything was going great. And then it was Thursday that they announced that the league was going to be suspended, and we'd already done like training and everything. We were going to have a game that weekend in Vancouver. We were going to leave the next day. And everybody was like, man, I just hope we get this game in because we had a bye week the following week. So I was like, let's just get one more game in, get some more points, and then take it from there. And it comes down Thursday afternoon or whatever, and everybody gets the same notification on their phone all at once. And it's like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
this is our new reality. And it's been, I mean, it's the same way it's been for everybody else without sports, like, what do you do? Like,
Hmm.
this is your job, this is your livelihood, and this is what you're passionate about. Like almost everybody who works in sports is passionate about sports, and it's just
Oh
kind
yeah.
of taken away all at once. And it's like you kind of have to look in the mirror and do a little self-reflection. All right, who am I without sports? What are my other hobbies? What are my other interests? But it was like the rug being pulled out from underneath us, two games into the season. It just started, and we started so well, and everybody felt like the team is going to be really good. And hopefully, when things do get started up here eventually, that momentum will still be there and the team will just
Mhm.
pick up where we left off. But it's just everything about it was bad timing.
Did you hear anything coming down from the front office or from the league leading up to it that said that this might be a possibility, or did this kind of hit everybody in the MLS out of the left field?
Um, we knew about it. Like obviously, everybody was following it, and everybody was keeping up with the updates and what was happening. And I remember the weekend before, so everything got suspended on that Thursday, and that weekend before, we had a home game against Orlando, and that was our home opener. And I had talked to somebody in the front office, and I was like, "Hey, I'm sure you're keeping up with all this. What's the plan? Does anybody know anything? What's going to happen?" And she was just like, well, we know it's going to affect us at some point, but we don't know what it's going to look like. We know that we're going to have to deal with this eventually, but we don't know how it's going to look. And then if you remember, it was Rudy Gobert and the Jazz who all got diagnosed, and that NBA game that Wednesday night that got canceled like right before tip off and
Hmm.
everything. That was when everybody was like, okay, this is going to happen to us the next day. And then it happens, and it's like, it just happened really quickly, is what I remember. Because it was that Saturday, and it was just, we don't know what it's going to look like. We're kind of playing it by ear. We have a task force set up. The league is following it, but we're just kind of playing it by ear right now. And then when Gobert tests positive, like all the leagues were like, all right, we're done. We're toast. We need to put pause on everything, and it just happened really fast.
Yeah, I remember I was working with 901 FC of the USL when this happened, and I was at my other job in a restaurant, and it was a lull. So I checked my email because, like you said, everybody saw what happened with the Jazz and the NBA, and just like that, I remember looking at the email and going, "Okay, that job is gone for." I mean, initially they said 30 days. It was like, all right, 30 days, like I'll just work in the restaurant as much as I can. And then a week later, they had to shut that down. I was like, okay, well, here we go. Let's figure out what to do. You mentioned that you guys run a bit of a roll. You started hot, 2-0-0, max points going to Vancouver. Was that what everybody was expecting of the Rapids coming into the season? Was that kind of looking at those first few games in schedule going, hey, we have a pretty legitimate shot to start hot here and put ourselves in good position early?
Internally, I think everybody felt cautiously optimistic because last year everybody felt optimistic as well, and it didn't go. It was a terrible start last year, but this year, like everybody was cautiously optimistic. Everybody felt like, man, this preseason was really good. We got some really good guys. We're young. Everybody knows their role. Our coach Robin Fraser, he'd been on the job now for since August. So he'd had some time with the guys. He'd had time to get to know them. They had time to learn his system. Like everybody felt like, all right, this is really good. I feel good about the way this is going and where we could end up. And then that first game, like on the road at DC, there was a season opener and we scored the game winner in stoppage time in the second half, with like 30 seconds left to play in the whole game. We scored the game winner and I went crazy. Everybody went crazy. We had a pack of traveling fans of about 60 or 80 who were up in the upper corner of the stadium, way tucked away. They were going berserk, and everybody was just like this huge relief. Like, this has started exactly, picture perfect. If you could write it up as a Hollywood script, this is the perfect start to this season. You get this win on the road, and everybody's feeling good. And that was it was almost like this pressure taken off of everything because expectations were high and because people were optimistic. To get that first win in that first game was kind of like an exhale where it was like, all right, yeah, we are as good as we thought we were. This is going to go well. We can continue to do this. We're not going to be like last year. This is going well. And then, we win the next game, the home opener, and it's as much positivity as I've seen in the place. And I think that has been around the team since 2016 when they went to the playoffs.
Yeah. Does it make it tougher to be forced into this break because of that start?
Yeah and no. I think one of the things that sets professional athletes apart from like you or me going out and playing a round of golf is like, you're a professional, you're in the prime of your life. Most of these guys, they're in their 20s, early 30s. This is the most physically fit they're ever going to be. And I think when you're a professional, if you're good, you're good. And taking time off doesn't all of a sudden make you bad or anything. You probably need another preseason, a short preseason or something to get your fitness back and get back into shape. But like, these guys, they're not like me on the weekends when I go out and play ping pong and like one Friday night, I just tear it up and I'm beating everybody. And the next Friday night, I can't do anything. Like, they're pros, so I think it's just, they got to get back into the groove and then the team should be about where it was.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So as far as their job, your job obviously is using your voice. You're calling all the games. There's obviously no sports to call right now. There's no games to broadcast. There's nothing on TV. What are you doing to stay sharp and kind of stay in that same mental space where you're ready to broadcast a game?
So the first couple of weeks after everything was suspended and there were no sports, I went back into like off-season mode where like the first week or the first couple of weeks after the end of a season, I'll just like chill out and do absolutely nothing and just like forget what it's like to be in an airport, forget what it's like to be in a hotel, just kind of chill out. And so that's what I did for about 10 days. And then after that, like I was like, all right, I'm ready to go back to work. When are we doing this? What's going to happen? And obviously nobody knows anything. Like there's no answers anywhere. So what I've done is a lot of self-scouting where I've listened back to our 2 games that we've had and some games from last year as well to try to pick apart like myself. And I try to make sure I don't do it too much because, you have all this time on your hands. Like you can just sit there and destroy yourself if you get too into it. But I've listened back to our games and been like, all right, what can I improve upon? What can I do better? What would I do differently in this situation? What could make this sound better? And trying to brainstorm ideas. But it's really just it's kind of just playing the waiting game, self-scouting. And I wish I was one of those guys who was like into FIFA,
Mm.
but I just like, it's hard for me to watch other people play FIFA. It's just like, that'd be fun to do. I know like Fox Sports, they were doing it. Like Stu Holden was doing play-by-play for FIFA. And I was like, that's so cool. But then I was like, I don't know if I could do that though. Like that's just it's kind of a different animal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been listening to our tapes, trying to figure out how I can improve and just waiting, man. Just a lot of
Mm.
wait.
Yeah. What are you doing besides that? Just as something to kind of take your mind off things. What hobbies have you dove into?
So I'm at my folks' house, and my dad has a nice camera. So I've taken his camera and I've been out just like photographing everything,
Mm.
like taking pictures of birds and squirrels and snakes and everything, and trying to find some sort of hobby that is stimulating, you know. Um, Read a lot of books, and I'm finally catching up on things on Netflix that I haven't had a chance to.
Yeah.
Like I'd never watched Ozark before,
What?
and now I'm just like blazing through it.
Oh, dude, it's so good. I remember watching it right when it came out.
This was season 3 has come out, and I didn't even watch the first 2, and so now I've like picked it up, and I'm like, all right, this is what I've missed. All right, this makes sense. This is a good show.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Did you
what's
did you
that?
dive into Tiger King at all?
I did watch Tiger King. That
And
was, dude. I mean, what do you even say about that show? Like, I mean, I thought when I read the description, it was talking about like tigers, zoos, and drugs and crimes, and I'm like, how could this possibly be? How could all of these things possibly happen in this show? How could all of this be exactly what this is talking about? And then I watched it and I was like, okay, it really was all those things. I get it. I understand now. That was an experience though. That was, I
oh
don't
yeah.
think another show like it.
No, that's the reason I think it's done so well is that it's just so far on the periphery of anything else that's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you took El Chapo and put him in a freaking zoo, and it's the show. You go, oh, okay, there you go. Come on, right?
You nailed it. You nailed it. It's El Chapo. They put him in a show. You got it.
So what's next for you? You mentioned that you're back at your folks' place, so you're taking a little break from Denver in that sense. But do you have a timeline laid out of anything?
Uh, no. My sister's going to move, which, you know, this is obviously the perfect time in the world to move, of
Mm-hmm.
course. So that'll be interesting to figure out the logistics of that. I might help her move. But really it's just kind of, I'm waiting for word from the mothership, from the league to say, all right, here's the timeline. Here's what we're going to do. Teams are going to go back to training. Fans can come back to games here. We're going to start play on this day, whatever it is. Like, I'm just waiting for that word, but it's kind of like everybody else, you know, we're all in limbo. Like nobody knows what the league is going to do. Nobody knows what the NBA or the NHL are going to do, which is something that I kind of feel even worse for. Like MLS is in a good spot where our season had just started and there's still an opportunity to play a full season. We can push the playoffs back if we have to, all these things. But for the NBA and NHL, like you were just a couple weeks from the playoffs starting, and if this goes on too much farther, like you're going to be back into training camp for the next season here soon. They get started in the fall. Like that's who I really feel bad for. MLS is kind of in a good spot though. Like we have time to figure things out, and we have time to play as many games as possible and keep the season intact. But yeah, it's just kind of waiting until this clears up.
There's a lot of rumors swirling around the different leagues about when they do come back, there maybe going to be games with no fans, empty arenas, just essential personnel. How would that change your job if you were broadcasting a game with an empty stadium?
Yeah, it's something that we've actually thought about and talked about a little bit. We've had discussions about like putting in audio of a crowd
Hmm.
just so it doesn't feel quite so empty. But I'm kind of at the point now where if we come back without fans, obviously fans make games, fans make atmospheres, and when I think of all the best sporting events that I've been to in my life, it's always been with a huge environment and a huge crowd and all of those positives. But at the same time, like I'm thinking like it's nice to just have sports back. It'd be nice just to be able
Hmm.
to watch your team, just to be able to follow your team and what they're doing, especially with everything else going on. Like it's a welcome distraction. But I think one of the positives that could happen is we could get those microphones that they keep field side, and you could really hear what the players are saying, and you can
Yeah,
really hear every knock of the ball and everything that's happening, and it's crystal clear. And that could be a positive. That could be an interesting way to kind of go about it and deal with it, because a lot of times, unless guys are like right next to a microphone, like you don't get to hear those things. When
right.
how often do you watch something on NFL films where they have somebody mic'd up and you're hearing them
Hmm.
during a play, and it like is this incredible piece of content? Like, so I think that could be really cool.
Yeah, definitely a lot of options there to kind of zig in the face of this crazy situation. Well,
Yeah.
Connor, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. Anything to plug before we get out of here?
Anything to plug? Oh, no, no. There's nothing going on. There's nothing happening. There's nothing. We're just waiting, man.
Well, I'll do your social media for you. Go find Connor Cape, Twitter, Instagram, Voice of the Colorado Rapids. I hope we get to hear you talk about some soccer very soon, my friend. Stay safe and sane.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate it.